She stood on my driveway, clipboard in hand, like she was about to auction off my life. "You don't live here anymore," she said, smug like she'd already won. I stared at her, still in my dusty combat boots, still smelling of sand and diesel. I'd landed less than 6 hours ago from an 11-month deployment overseas. When I left, this was my land, 3 acres my father and I had bought together. The small house, the workshop, even the oak tree out front, every inch of it had history. But now there was a new HOA sign at the entrance to the street, glossy and fake-friendly, and Karen, the president, was telling me the HOA had legally sold my property while I was gone. I laughed once just to stop myself from exploding. "That's not how this works." "Oh, it's done," she said, waving a stack of papers that looked like they'd been printed that morning. "We auctioned it for community development. You can take it up with our board, but you'll be trespassing if you stay." I glanced at the workshop. My tools were gone. My truck wasn't in the driveway, and when I tried the front door, there was a shiny new lock. That's when she stepped closer, whispering like she was letting me in on some secret. "You were gone too long. We assumed you abandoned it." She didn't know. She didn't know who I was or what I had access to. I pulled out my phone, not to call a lawyer, not to call the police. I called someone whose number I wasn't even supposed to still have. "Captain, yeah. I'm back, and we have a situation." Karen's smile faded when 3 black SUVs rolled up the street 15 minutes later. I didn't move. I just looked at her and said, "You just made this a military problem." Karen froze as the SUV stopped in front of us. The doors swung open, and 4 men in plain clothes stepped out, but I could tell by the way they moved. They weren't here to sell cookies. "Sir," the tallest one said, walking right past her like she was invisible, "we've reviewed your call. We have confirmation of fraudulent property transfer and unauthorized seizure of military-owned assets." Karen blinked. "Military-owned? No, this is HOA property now. I have the paperwork." She started fumbling through her folder, but one of the men snatched it from her hands, flipped through it, and smirked. "This isn't even notarized," he said, holding up a page printed off some free legal template site. "And the signatures? All in the same handwriting." Karen's face went pale. That's just how our secretary writes." "Ma'am," he cut her off. "You just admitted to forging legal documents on federal land." Her jaw dropped. "Federal?" I stepped forward, my voice low. "My land's part of the military homestead program. The government still holds partial title until I've paid it off. Which means—" I glanced at the men behind me. "You didn't just steal from me. You stole from the United States military." Karen tried to laugh it off. "This is a misunderstanding," the shortest guy pulled out his phone, showing her a live feed from inside the HOA's so-called office. Every wall lined with my stolen tools, my truck in their garage, even my father's war medals displayed like trophies. Her eyes darted around, looking for someone to back her up. But all the nosy neighbors who had been peeking out a moment ago suddenly shut their blinds. Then my phone buzzed. "Another call." I answered. "Sir, orders confirmed. If you want it done, we can clear the subdivision by nightfall." Karen's voice cracked. "Clear? What does that mean?" I looked her dead in the eye. "It means you and your board are about to find out what a legal military repossession looks like." Karen's mouth opened like she was going to argue, but the low rumble of diesel engines coming from the main road made her freeze. 3 more vehicles turned the corner, 2 flatbed haulers and a camouflaged Humvee. Behind them, a convoy of smaller trucks followed, each one carrying uniformed men and women in tactical vests. Neighbors started pouring onto their lawns, whispering, pulling out phones. This wasn't the kind of HOA drama they were used to. This was the kind that made the evening news. Karen tried to step toward me, hands out like she was suddenly calm. Let's talk about this. Maybe we can come to an agreement." I shook my head slowly. "You had 11 months to play fair. You chose theft." The tallest officer waved his hand and the team moved in with military precision. One group began photographing every property in the subdivision, noting fences, landscaping, and vehicles. Another group started removing the HOA's metal signs from the ground and tossing them onto a growing pile near the Humvee. Karen spun toward them. "You can't just take our signs." The officer didn't even look up. "Ma'am, this subdivision is built on land the HOA has no legal claim to. Every home purchased under your fraudulent deed will be reviewed for immediate repossession. A man from across the street shouted, "Wait! Are you saying we've been paying the HOA for nothing?" The officer nodded once. Exactly that. Karen's face turned a shade of red I'd never seen before. She whirled back to me. "You're ruining everything. We built this community." I stepped closer, my voice just loud enough for the crowd to hear. "No, you built a scam on stolen land. And today it ends." Just then a soldier approached me with a clipboard. "Sir, we've found the original deed records. Would you like us to begin asset recovery now?" I smiled. Every nail, every truck, every stolen tool. Bring it all back. Karen took a step back toward her SUV like she might make a run for it. But two officers were already blocking her door. And that's when I saw the panic really set in, because she realized this wasn't just about the land anymore. This was about her. One of the officers leaned in close to her window and said quietly, "Ma'am, you're not free to leave. Federal property theft is a serious charge." Karen's hands shook. "This is insane. I didn't steal from the military. I was just enforcing community standards." The officer held up my father's war medals, still in their display case, pulled straight from her HOA office minutes earlier. "Community standards don't involve breaking into someone's home and taking these." Gasps came from the crowd. A couple of neighbors stepped back, suddenly realizing how deep this went. I crossed my arms, watching as they started unloading my truck from her private garage across the street. It still had my deployment sticker on the windshield exactly where I'd left it. Karen kept babbling. "I was protecting property values." He was gone. The house was empty. "Empty doesn't mean abandoned," I cut in sharply. "And you knew exactly where I was." I emailed the HOA before I left, twice. Her eyes darted, calculating. "Well, the board decided." "You are the board," the officer interrupted. "Every position except treasurer is filled by you or your relatives. That's not a homeowners association, that's a front." Another truck rolled up, this one towing a portable storage unit. My tools, my furniture, and even my late mother's rocking chair were carefully stacked inside. The crowd got louder, angry voices. Neighbors demanding refunds, someone yelling, "I paid you $5,000 for a fence permit that never happened." Karen's face went pale, and for the first time she didn't have a comeback. Then my phone buzzed again. "Sir," a voice on the line said, "orders executed. All HOA bank accounts tied to the subdivision are frozen, pending federal investigation. Do you want us to process the arrest here or at the station?" I glanced at Karen, her shoulders trembling as she tried to keep standing. "Here," I said. "Let the neighbors see exactly who's been running their lives." When the cuffs clicked around her wrists, the entire street went silent. Then one man started clapping. Another joined in. Within seconds, the whole block was cheering. And Karen, she just stared at me like she couldn't believe this was real. I leaned in, my voice calm and low. "You told me I didn't live here anymore. But the truth is, you never did." Karen's hands were cuffed in front of her, but she still tried to twist toward the crowd, desperate for someone, anyone, to defend her. "You people know me. I built your playground. I organized the block parties. You stole from all of us." A woman shouted back. Another man yelled, "You charged me $200 for mailbox paint." The soldiers didn't slow down. Two of them escorted Karen toward the Humvee, while the others kept cataloging and photographing everything. One team moved into the HOA clubhouse and started boxing up files, hard drives, and, judging by the gasps from inside, stacks of cash. I stood on the curb watching as years of her fake authority crumbled in minutes. The whole subdivision had gathered now, phones recording from every angle. The story was no longer just mine. This was everyone's. The officer beside me leaned over.